What up, bro?
What's going on, man?
How you doing?
Good, let's do this shit.
Let's do it. Let's do it. What do you want to talk about?
Fucking making money, living your best life, how to actually do that in 2024,
All right.
you know?
All right.
Because we are a rare breed.
Let's do it.
Not a lot of people are able to fucking come up like we've been able to come up.
So why don't we talk about that? Like when you say rare breed, what exactly do you mean?
We're built different, right?
All right.
99.9% of the country is out there, you know, slaving away, corporate America. They lack vision, they lack tenacity, they lack grit, and they're unable to break free of the matrix, and they're forever a high-paid slave,
Right.
right?
Right.
So for me, I never wanted to be a slave. I only answer to one person, that's God.
Nice.
That's it. So for me, I can never see myself, having to ask some boss when I could take lunch, when I can go to the bathroom. And my main thing was freedom from day one. I was not going to be that guy. So, I know you're the same way too. And that's why we're a rare breed.
I love that. I love that. So I guess obviously, we're going to be recording this stuff, and we got a lot of people following right here. I guess I want to know a little bit about maybe how you got started. When do you think that rare breed side of you came out? Let's take it way back from where were you from? Virginia?
Virginia is where I grew up, Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. Yeah, I could tell you from a very early age, I was different. I was a troublemaker in school. Second grade, they told me, hey, I'm talking too much. I'm getting in too much trouble. So I was always kind of that, kid that was getting kicked out of class. Always the one that was getting sent to the principal's office, and the one that was cutting class, not going to school. As I got into high school, I dropped out in 10th grade, and I just always saw something, better for my life, bigger, and I always felt like there was a better way of living than what my teachers were showing me, than what my parents were showing me, from what the community was showing, around me. I didn't know what it was, but I knew deep down inside there was a better way to live, and I knew that there was rich people out there, and I didn't know how I was going to be one of those people, but I was fucking bound and determined to figure it out.
Nice. What kind of a background were your parents in? Like, what do they work in when you were growing up?
Corporate America. My stepdad was CIA. He's retired CIA now.
Really?
So I grew up in like a strict CIA household.
Oh wow.
Yep. Yeah. I watched him, his work ethic. Rubbed off on me a lot.
Okay.
He would wake up at 2:45 in the morning every single morning, still does to this day. Would work a full day, do a full workout at the gym, be in bed by 7 p.m.
Works out?
to this day.
Wow.
So I just, men these days in 2024 are lazy, right? And it's just sad to see how soft men have become.
Right.
But for me growing up, like seeing my stepfather, do that, I just that's what a man does. He gets up early. He goes and busts his ass all day. He works out. He's a good man for his family, and that's what it is to be a man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same way. My dad is from Mexico. Both my parents. They're actually they're not from like the city in Mexico. They're kind of from like a little ranch style. And my dad just working like 12-hour days. To this day, he also works like more than what he should. So I think I've always had that work ethic, and that's exactly what I brought into this entrepreneurial endeavor that I've been doing. So from there, when you were in high school and all that, I remember you were telling me earlier when we were having lunch that you got into personal training, right? Personal training, and then from there you did a couple of other ventures. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so right out of high school, I didn't finish high school. I dropped out in 10th grade. I was working at cell phone stores selling cell phones. And then when I was 18, I became a personal trainer. That's how old you have to be a personal trainer and be certified. So got certified to be a personal trainer. And I watched all my wealthy clients come in and tell me about, hey, we just got back from the Maldives. We got these big fancy houses, nice cars. And I was like, man, I'm doing something wrong because I'm working harder than this guy, and he's making way more money than me. And so my first mentors were my personal training clients. I'd ask them, what do you do for a living, right? Kind of like the videos you guys see on social media.
Right.
Hey, you have a really nice car. What do you do for a living? I'd be asking them that. and they'd be like, oh, I own this business or I'm in real estate. And those were the common trends. None of them were W-2 employees. None of them had bosses. They all either did real estate or they owned a company. Right. So I was like, well, fuck. Okay, well, success leaves clues. And that's when I realized that if I was going to make it, I probably needed to get into real estate and I probably needed to own my own company. And didn't have any money, didn't have any connections, didn't have any means of doing that. And it was a bug that was kind of in the back of my mind. I started watching YouTube videos and educating myself. And then, here we are fucking 10 years later, #1 wholesaling company in the United States.
That's badass, bro. That's badass. I was sharing my story with you earlier, and I think it's good that everybody that's listening hears both sides of the story. Similar with me, I was also troubled, growing up, getting suspended. I actually got expelled, and I actually graduated.
Yeah.
Was that?
Me too.
You too?
Yeah.
I actually, when I got expelled, I actually went back to the same high school, and I graduated early. So, funny story, right? Whenever you get expelled, you typically go behind a year, right? So I was also selling weed. I was selling coke, selling dope in the streets, and smoking weed and all that stuff, getting into a couple fights. Got suspended like twice. On the third time, I remember I got caught selling weed, and I took off running from the security. And when I came back, they said, all right, you're gone. When I got expelled, went to like the C school, what we used to call it. Came back, and I graduated early. From there, went to college, did 2.5 years in college. I got like an associate in science for landscaping. I thought that's what I wanted to do because I was in landscaping and horticulture. I grew up working with my dad since I was 6 years old. So ever since I was 6 years old, I always knew how to work hard. From there, I was telling you that I got into trimming trees. And this one time, this palm tree broke on me, changed my life, fell on a brick wall on my ass. I had surgery. I got hardware on my back. And from there, I did the same thing. I just said, you know what? I got to change this path. And I started watching YouTube videos, got into real estate, and here we are today. So, I'm following your footsteps. We met at Chris Root's mastermind. But other than that, was there anybody that was an influence, like for you getting into like real estate or into your entrepreneur endeavor?
Yeah, my first mentors were my clients. Then when I got into real estate, Sean Terry was my first mentor. Still consider him a mentor and a great friend to this day. I had guys that poured into me along the way. Coming up, I had even Carlos Reyes. I've had plenty of people. I could go on and give credits for an hour on here because I'm a byproduct of having good mentors. I'll tell you one reason why I am where I am right now is because I invested in good mentors. I might be a high school dropout, but I spent over 7 figures on my own education, going to masterminds, showing up for events, learning, constantly figuring out what I need to do to get better. And there's no coincidence how much I've spent on mentorship in regards to how much I make, right? I've done this, and I've asked people, how much have you spent on mentorship? They'll be like, 200 grand. I'll be like, how much do you make? 2 million a year. How much have I spent? Over $1 million. How much do I make? Over 10 million. It's usually 10x whatever you spend on mentorship is what you make. So like, how much have you spent on mentorship?
Man, I've dropped like a couple $100,000 to this day, like probably close to $1 million. I haven't kept track, but
you probably spent a couple $100,000.
Yeah,
for sure.
a couple $100,000 for sure.
And you make 10x that a year now.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a direct correlation to spending money on your personal development and your own education to how much you're actually going to make every single year.
Right. Okay, you know what? I was actually surprised when I seen your post yesterday on IG that you said that it was your 10-year birthday. First of all, congratulations for that, bro.
Thank you, man. It means more to me than my own birthday or any other holiday on the calendar. Is the 10-year anniversary of this company right here.
Was it called Want to Sell Now from day one?
From the very beginning.
Wow.
From day one. Bought the URL on GoDaddy back in the day and just ran with it. But it was an idea that I started in a one-bedroom apartment in the hood with $500 to my name and, built it up to the #1 wholesaling company in the nation. And I still feel like we're just getting started, but it's very near and dear to my heart, and this is like my baby. You
Right,
know,
right.
so
No,
very
that's
proud of
badass
that.
because I think the amount of success that you have right now, it's kind of hard to fathom that you've been doing this for 10 years. Like I thought that you were doing this maybe for 6 years or something, right? So, why don't we talk about that? Like you said earlier, it's gonna be harder than you think. It's gonna take longer than you think, and you're gonna have to grind more than you think. So, what has the journey been in the whole 10 years? Like what's your mindset on that?
Well, first of all, anything worth it in life is always going to be harder than you think. It's always going to take longer than you think. I don't care if it's working out, if it's business. That's just the way life goes. So you just got to get that into your fucking mind, and realize that if that wasn't the case, we would all be shredded six-pack abs and billionaires on yachts. So
Right.
you got to understand that the way to shorten that is to get around good people, good mentors like you guys flying out here, invested in mentorship. You're shortcutting your success. The only way to shortcut your success is by raising your thermostat. We all have a thermostat in our minds, right? You can raise that thermostat through proximity. So if you're an 80-degree person and you get around 100-degree people, your thermostat is going to raise up to 100 degrees. On the flip side of that, if you're a 60-degree, if you're an 80-degree person, you start hanging around 60-degree people, you're going to drop,
Right, right.
right? So your proximity to higher level people is going to shortcut that gap for you.
Absolutely. And I honestly experienced that coincidentally with Chris Root's mastermind. I talk about this story all the time.
Tell that story.
Yeah, I love that story. So that was like one of the first higher level masterminds that I had ever attended. It was 2 years ago, and it was like 5 bands. I think it was the most expensive mastermind that I had ever attended to that date, because prior to that, I think like the most expensive one was like maybe $1,000, $2,000. And I had been following Chris Root for a while. And I said, you know what? I like this guy, right? I like this guy. And I remember it was December of 2021. And I'm pretty big on goal setting. I set goals every year. I set goals on personal goals, relationship goals, asset goals, which is money, intellectual goals, spiritual goals, and exercise goals, health, right? So I remember it's December, getting ready for 2022, and literally my goals were surrounded around myself. I said, I'm going to drive for dollars more. I'm going to cold call more. I said, you know what? I'm going to drive for dollars for like 3-4 hours in the morning. I'm going to cold call for 3-4 hours in the afternoon. And I'm going to be able to make, I don't know, it was probably like $200,000 that I was aiming for. So I go to Chris Root's mastermind, and it's all the proximity. It's all the relationships. So I remember flying in on Thursday night because it was Friday and Saturday. And I hit up Chris Root, not even knowing if he was going to respond back. I said, hey, Chris, is anybody getting together tonight, right? Is anybody getting together before the event? Or do you need help setting up at your office or at your place, right? He said, you know what? I didn't think he was going to respond back, but he responded, and he said, I don't need any help, but my wife, Patty, is making some gumbo if you want to come over. I had already ate. I said, but you know what? I'm still going. So I rolled up, got an Uber there, and I thought it was going to be a bunch of guys, and it was just Chris Root and you. And I didn't even know who you were at the time. So I was like, all right, who's this guy? And I was talking to you, and you said, yeah, we have a wholesale operation. My team has everything dialed in Austin and everything. And I ended up leaving that day, and I looked you up, and I was like, oh, damn, this guy's a fucking boss, Well, that weekend was like one of the most powerful weekends ever, because I seen you. I seen Mike Martinez, and I forgot the other guy's name. Chris Lee, the one that dropped over $1 million on a jet. So, and then you have Ray Aboud. He rolls up in a Ferrari. And I see you over here humbly. You show me a wire on your laptop of 280 bands. And I was like, oh, he must have bought a house. And I'm like, what'd you do, buy a house? And you said, no, I bought a Ferrari. And I was like, oh, my God. I said, I am in the right room, right? That's $5,000 that I invested in that weekend to be around higher level people. Mike Martinez, I forgot to mention this, he bought a house that weekend in Destin, right? So it was that $5,000 investment that at the time I was a little afraid to invest in, but it had a huge outcome. I remember flying back home. It was one of the most uncomfortable plane rides, aside from when I went to Miami to go look for a place. But I remember just reshifting my mind. And I knew that Mike Martinez told me, he said, you know what? You're never going to scale like that. You're never going to scale as a one-man band. So I remember going back home, grabbing my notebook, scratching out all my goals that I had already written because it was just a one-man team. And I said, you know what? I want to be like Nick Perry. I want to be like Mike Martinez, Chris Lee, Ray Aboud, Chris Rude. And I said, I got to start getting the team. So it was right there that it just changed my mindset to grow a team. But if it wasn't because of that investment that I made to be around ballers, higher players, it would have never happened.
Yeah, it expands your awareness and raises your financial thermostat. And the more you do that, the faster you'll get to your goals.
Right.
Which is why you're here today, right?
Absolutely.
To raise your financial thermostat and to expand your awareness.
Right.
And you're going to go back and you're going to get to your goals faster.
Absolutely. You know, anybody out there that's listening, like, you cannot be afraid to invest in yourself. Oh, another story. I remember when I was first getting into real estate and all that, I remember getting the 3 package of Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, and the rules to investing or something like that. It was like $35 for the 3 books. And I remember being nervous. I was like, man, this is $35 for 3 books. Now, I mean, we drop like $30,000 on the mentorship per year, right? But you're right. You're just collapsing time frames. Another thing that you probably remember that I did with you, because I actually made it a goal to work with you. After that time that I met you over there, I said, you know what? I'm going to get close to Nick Perry. I'm going to get close to that guy. I want to be part of his cartel. I'm going to learn from him, right? Because you're a super admirable person, you know? So I said, you know what? When I seen you in Phoenix at Crystal Shark's event, what I did is I said, you still got that 7-figure cartel mentorship? I didn't think twice. I got my credit card, I bought the mentorship, and I showed you the screen. I don't know if you remember that.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. I said, you know what? Put me in the cartel. You know, I didn't think about it twice. I said, I want to get close to Nick. You know, sometimes you got to pay to play.
Absolutely.
You know?
I always have a joke that all my friends come from paid masterminds. If you didn't spend at least $5K to be in the room, we're probably not friends.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh, I remember you told me that. You said that in Destin. So, yeah, that's exactly what I did. And I knew you were going to be there. That's why I went. I knew you were going to be there. I knew Mike was going to be there. Chris the Shark. I knew there was going to be a bunch of heavy hitters, right? So, yeah, I didn't think twice. I said, you know what? I want to make an impact. I want to make a good impression. So I just got the credit card, swiped it, and I said, let's go. Let's get part of the cartel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now look at you now. I mean, there's very few people I let in my office. You know, it takes away from my team, and you're one of them because you took that initiative, you invested in yourself, you showed up and put in the work, and impressed everybody along the way with your progress. I mean, in the last year and a half since you jumped into it, you've absolutely exploded, and you moved from Palm Springs to Miami, across the country. You set up an office, you built it, you have a team of killers, you're hitting KPIs, you're making the cash register ring, team's growing. A lot of people can't do that, man. So,
Right, yeah.
Cheers to you, man, for sure.
Yeah, I would admit that this last year has been one of the toughest years that I've ever experienced in my life. Right, just like you said, picking up shop, going to Miami. Not a lot of people do that, right? I sold my house, I just took off, and just being broken down mentally, right? From growing everything, not experiencing it before, but this is where the real G's are made.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one other key to success is moving out of your hometown. People that get stuck in their hometown, they're usually going to get stuck around the same people in complacency, and they never end up growing to the people that end up getting away. So I don't care who you are, what you do, get out of your hometown, get yourself out of your comfort zone. That's how you're going to grow.
Absolutely. I was around my family. I was in the nest, right? And so I said, you know what? I got to get out of the nest, right? Back up against the wall. I said, you know what? I don't know anybody in Miami. no friends, no family. Went out there to go look for a spot, and I said, you know what? Let's go. Let's pick up. We took off. So I'm a true believer in that. I know that for sure. Mentally, I am way stronger than I've ever been before.
You're gonna look back and you're gonna say that that decision to move to Miami was probably one of the best decisions of your life. Me, when I moved to Austin, looking back at all the decisions I made in my life, that was one of the best decisions I made, was to move out of my hometown. If I didn't do that, I would not be where I am today, hands down.
100%, 100%. Well, I mean, we can start winding down, I guess. But one thing that I really do like about you, bro, is how you're absolutely humble. You know, I guess I wanna learn more about that. Like, how do you maintain such a humble attitude? You know, I think you approach people so well. I don't think you have like a high ego or anything like that. Where did you get that from? You know, for anybody that's listening, what kind of tips do you have for that?
You know, I'm just a normal guy off the street. Like, I got it from the mud. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
don't forget that. And additionally, I know that God can take it all away from you just like that. So, you know, God's got a paddle for every ass. You can never get too big for your fucking own britches, because in a heartbeat, it can all be taken away from you. So I'm a firm believer as well. You can learn something from anybody. I don't care if it's a homeless guy on the street or the billionaire, in the jet.
I love that.
And I take that seriously. So at the end of the day, man, I'm just a normal guy just out here trying to.
There you go, bro. I love that. I love that. Cool, bro. I appreciate you, bro.